Hello and welcome to our tip of the week. I hope everyone's doing well. As a follow-up to last week I spoke about the 7 symptoms of lateral violence. So this week I promised to talk about 7 antidotes to lateral violence. Having said that, there's more than 7, obviously, but I sort of teased out what are the top 7 things that I'd like to share that I think are relevant for folks. And so I put together a short list, and I haven't given a lot of detail, so people might come away having questions in terms of, well, how would I do that? And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start asking folks to email in questions that they have to me that I can address in the weekly tip. So if you do have any other questions coming out of this tip, feel free to email me at denise@quayacquai.ca, and I will include my responses in the tips in the weeks to come. So 7 antidotes to lateral violence. I'm going to start with increasing positivity. There's a ton of research out there on the benefits of positivity, the benefits of creating an environment that feels there's a sense of well-being, a sense of trust, and high levels of positivity. And so anything that we can do to engage folks in activities or conversations that focus on what's working, the strengths of our systems, acknowledging what is right and what is good, builds a reservoir of positivity. And what that means is that when we have high levels of positivity, it affects our productivity, it affects our ability to navigate change, it builds resilience within our system. And when there are conflicts or there's problems or difficult things to navigate, it doesn't take us under. We are able to navigate through it, not necessarily with ease, but it doesn't take the toll that it would otherwise if there were low levels of positivity. In a negative environment, and where something tough happens, it's very fragmenting. So build positivity where possible. The next thing is to reduce toxins, and toxins are blame, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, and they contaminate our conflicts. And when there are high levels of toxins, there's usually high levels of negativity as well. So just developing awareness of the toxins themselves, and then being able to name them when they show up, or being able to come together to discuss a plan for not using them anymore, and strategizing ways to reduce toxins within the system, and removing them from the way that we dialogue together, have tough conversations together, work through problems together, is the second antidote to lateral violence. The next thing is self-awareness, developing self-awareness. Self-awareness and awareness of others. And the reason that I feel self-awareness is so very, very important is because if we're able to self-reflect on what has worked and not worked in the past and make changes today so that we can have a different result in the future, that is how we can overcome some of the patterns in our communication and our relationships. So the ability to self-reflect and develop awareness, it gives us choice. Where we have awareness, we are at choice in our lives. So we're not just coming from a reactive place of survival where it's unconscious and impulsive. We're able to slow down and consider our options and make a conscious choice that will change patterns moving forward. So awareness is very, very critical, and mastery of awareness, the ability to reflect and develop awareness and be at choice, is definitely a leadership skill. The third thing is address issues directly. It's very, very important that whether it's one-on-one or in a group of people, that we begin to build the capacity to address our issues directly with each other, so that we can put the tough issue on the table and have a direct conversation about it without people becoming wounded, and in a way that develops and builds trust. If we don't have that, what we do see is gossiping and complaining, and a lot of the toxic behavior that we see, because people feel very frustrated and they don't feel that there are spaces where they can share what they're really feeling about something. So encouraging direct communication is really, really important. The next the next antidote, number 5, is carry our power consciously. And when I talk about power in the work that I do, I really invite folks to consider that we each have a unique type of power based on who we are in the world. And power is contextual, so it depends on where we are and who we're with and what we're doing. Some places we have more power than others. There's some places in our life where we feel powerless, and there's other places in our life where we do feel that we have a substantial amount of power. So where we do have power, we want to hold it consciously. And what that really means is we want to be mindful of those people who contextually have less power than us. We don't want to invalidate folks or the things that we can't identify with. We don't want to make folks feel like we don't care or that we're out of touch with them. So especially this point for leaders is really, really critical. Leaders who want to build trust and develop empathy with people and endear people to them, you want to carry your power very, very consciously and own it in regards to community members. So power is all about perception. This is a big topic, and I did address rank a few tips ago, but I might need to revisit it. So just noticing where you hold power, carrying it more consciously, being mindful of those people around you and their perception of you and the impact you may be having, and really asking yourself, what is the impact that I want to have with folks? And how do I open people up so that they trust and they feel like they can come and talk to me about whatever's troubling them, what's important to them, and so that they know that I care. It's really, really important. The 6th antidote is developing role flexibility. And if you think about roles in our communities, there's a whole spectrum of roles. I talked about the victim and the abuser role last week. We also have roles like the peacemaker and the villain and the mediator and the martyr and the mother. And there's all these roles. There's the leader, the natural leader. There's the complainer, there's the rebel. We have all these roles at play in our communities, and often folks become over-identified with their roles, or there's a natural fit. So the one I see most often is the person that's willing to sort of say the really tough things, the really hard things, and they become a bit unpopular. If someone gets stuck in that role and no one else is ever stepping in, that person can start to feel burnt out. It can be a hard place to be all the time. So we must be able to develop role flexibility. We must be able to step away from roles and retire out roles that are no longer serving our systems. And then we need to be able to develop new roles and step into roles that our system may need that haven't been present before. So role flexibility is really, really important. And the last thing is the ability to respond to triggering. Most of the time, people's feelings get hurt because an event or a person has triggered us, and we start to respond from a triggered place, and then another person gets triggered, and you can have a whole group of people that are coming from a triggered place. And when we're triggered, we have a physiological response that is involuntary to being triggered. And so when we're in that place, we're not very skillful. It is not a good time to have a conversation. And so in order to recognize the physiological signs of a person, and it's unique to each of us, but generally our heart rate goes up, breathing starts to shorten, we might speed up our speech or become quiet and withdrawn, our eyes might widen, we might get hot, we might get red on our face. If folks are becoming triggered, we really just need to soothe each other until our physiological signs start to ease and we start to self-regulate again. Or maybe we need to take a break, but not pressing an issue or continuing to try and problem solve or dialogue when we're in a triggered state. That's really, really important as well. So those are the 7 antidotes I'm sharing this week. I said this list in the piece I wrote, I said this list is not exhaustive, but it's a great start. These things are not easy to implement, but with some determination and some practice, we really can start to transform our community one relationship at a time, one conversation at a time. Work with those folks that are willing, that feel the need to evolve relationships and change the way that we communicate together, and practice. And most importantly, be kind to yourself and other people. Have a great week. Bye.